Sometimes I want breakfast burritos, but I don't want to spend all the time to make it before I head to work. So with that in mind, we're going to make some freezer-ready breakfast burritos. I, like most people, love a fried potato in pretty much every form I've ever had it, so we're going to use those in our burritos. We're going to start those in an air fryer or an oven now while we prep everything else. I like a bit of fried onions and peppers in my burritos, so I diced up a large onion and red bell pepper. As always, I use the old onion dicing method. If you'd like full details on that, you can check out our Blarney breakfast bake video linked above. I try and waste as little as possible when cooking, and with that in mind, I think I found the best way to dice a pepper is to slice off the top with the stem, chop off as much of the flesh from that stem part as I can, then slice the chunk of the flesh off the rest of the pepper. Do you do this too, or do you know a better way to prep peppers? If so, let me know down in the comments. Being that these are breakfast burritos, there's tons of different ways you could whip these up. I'm going to start by cooking up 2 packages of Midamar's Halal Beef Breakfast Links. And if you'd like to try these for yourself, you can use the code YTV10 for $10 off your first order. I pulled the sausage out of the links for this, but if you like little bits better, you could always just chop them into bite-sized pieces. We'll break that up and brown it until everything is fully cooked. Scoop that out with a slotted spoon and set it in a mixing bowl for now. Or if you prefer a nice halal beef bacon, you could always make this with our breakfast strips. All of our breakfast strips are hickory wood smoked, so you'll be getting a ton of great flavor for your breakfast burritos. Once those are all cooked up and a little bit crispy, we'll set them aside to cool while we clean out some of the fat, reserving about 2 tablespoons. Get that back on the heat and then add in the onions and peppers. Cook those until everything is tender. This took me about 10 minutes or so. Once those are softened and smelling tasty, we'll set them aside. Now in a mixing bowl, we'll put 9 large eggs, 3 tablespoons of milk, and salt and pepper to taste, or about a half a teaspoon each. I prefer to whisk eggs and other liquids in a mixing bowl with a spout. It's not 100% needed, but it does make pouring the eggs and other liquids a lot easier later. In the same pan that we cook the peppers and onions in, we'll melt about a tablespoon or so of butter. Once that's all melty, we'll pour in the eggies and lower our heat to medium-low. The lower heat will help make sure the eggs don't get overcooked. I mix these up slowly and let the eggs sit and cook for just a little bit. We don't want these to get too dry though. We'll need a little moisture so they reheat correctly later. Now we gotta start prepping the burritos. Lay a burrito-sized tortilla on a cutting board. Then we'll layer on a tablespoon or so of our peppers, 2 to 3 tablespoons of the eggs, a tablespoon of sausage or more if you're only using sausage, a tablespoon of beef bacon, and about 2 tablespoons of cheddar or your favorite cheese. I decided to mix mine up so I could get a little bit of all the ingredients in each bite. I like to put the hash browns on at the end because they're not quite as malleable as the other ingredients, but if that doesn't bother you, you can always mix them in like we did everything else. Pull the lower half of the tortilla up and tuck it under the filling. Now we'll fold in the top edges of the tortilla. This is to help seal the burrito. Now we'll wrap that up nice and tight. Make sure to set these seam side down though, because they'll likely unwrap if you don't. We'll continue making burritos with varying amounts of fillings until we use up all of the ingredients. This ended up making me 10 burritos. But we gotta seal these burritos up. To do that, we'll place the burritos seam side down in a pan over medium to medium-low heat. We're not trying to cook these all the way through, we just want them to get a bit crisp so they hold their shape later when we go to wrap them. Once those are cool enough to handle, we're going to pull out some parchment paper and wrap it up again. We'll start by placing the burrito in the center of the paper, bring the 2 long sides together, then we'll fold the top down a few times. This should be tight against the burrito when you're done. Take one of the open ends and shove that through the opening until it's slightly secured under the burrito. Then we'll take the remaining bit of parchment and shove that into the same opening. Repeat this on the other side and you should end up with a sealed burrito. And that's it! Toss them in the freezer and then you can cook them in the microwave for around 60 seconds for your next quick breakfast. Thanks for watching until the end and we'll see you next week with another great halal recipe.